Today's chronicle is very important because I'm going to tell you why it's so important to keep an injury logbook, especially when you're trying to figure out what type of shoulder injury do you have. Now guys, you got to look at the history of what you were doing first. Now in my case, I have the full case of my last 10 years on this board right now. This is my injury log. So as you can see here, powerlifting, bench press tournaments. So I did a lot of bench press tournaments. So basically I was putting insane amount of weights, 10 months a year for 10 years. So eventually I was bound to have some shoulder problems. Now, let's look at what happened in the last 10 years. First, it started with lack of thoracic mobility. Now, oftentimes when you have shoulder problems like AC joint impingements, it's a type 2 shoulder blade posture, you're going to have basically a contralateral rotation, which means the right shoulder is going to be slightly higher, okay? And I was having some thoracic mobility issues, which I was working on by foam rolling. Of course, it was always a question of lack of internal range of motion. So I seem to have adhesive capsulitis side effects, which I had to always release the internal range of motion. Then came the biggest problems I ever had, which was a labrum tear on the left side. Now that could be a weak serratus on the right side and also excessive pressure on the left. Because if you do have a contralateral rotation, you're going to bench and this serratus is not going to function as much. This left side is going to take the whole joust of it and you're going to have a lot of problem emanating from that AC joint impingement, which probably caused that labrum tear in my case. Now, another thing is supraspinatus tendinitis. I was having a lot of tendinitis in the supraspinatus when doing abduction, and not when my arm was here, like a classic type 3 shoulder blade posture. It was when I was going down in adduction. That's where my problem was, okay? So that's another symptom. It's very important to write them down. Now finally, the biggest problem, right? All these ended up as AC joint impingement. Now guys, an AC joint impingement can be caused by type 1 or type 2. So it's important to find out what type of impingement you have at that point. I was having a lot of difficulty breathing from the right nostril. So already I knew that my diaphragm, there was a side of my intercostal ribs that couldn't breathe, either on the left or on the right. Now, lately, this is what happens. A lot of people will tell me, okay, I was having an AC joint impingement and all of a sudden I feel numbness in my hand. I have trouble grabbing stuff, okay? Numbness in the hand can be a side effect of thoracic outlet syndrome, which could be seen in type 1 and type 2, okay? But the question is it really a TOS? You don't know that, but you still write it in your injury logbook. Now, what really sealed the deal for me? One day I was squatting, right? I was taking the bar, I put it back on the spinous, the membrane of my scapula, and the bar is pretty much crossing C7T1, and all of a sudden this pain came shooting down my hand exactly at the AC joint spot. And basically this is a cause of cervical radiculopathy, which is a type 1 shoulder blade condition. And finally, every time my upper traps get tight, which is type 1 or type 2, I feel the tingling and numbness in my hands. So a lot of people could say, okay, Pat, this is great. You have all your symptoms right here. I see where it went from a type 1 or a type 2, but which one is it? Well, guys, a type 2 can be a type 2, a type 1 can be a type 1, but a type 2 sometimes, if you're fixing it as you go along, because I didn't leave it like that, I was fixing that type 2 shoulder blade posture, can transform into a type 1 if other weakness, secondary weaknesses, become primary weakness. So, in order to see what happened here, I had a type 2 which transformed into a type 1, and that AC joint impingement that I was trying to fix for 2 years, although I was working on that type 1, I was treating the right type of shoulder blade posture, but I didn't treat the right symptoms. Which means that if you have a cervical radiculopathy, the problem's there. And if you look at my neck right here, you can see the bump. There's scar tissue around C71. And that's a big no-no. You see that, there's a problem there. So that's how you see that everything has a bearing. There's a reason for keeping an injury logbook. So guys, if you send me your pictures and you want me to help you, very important, prepare your logbook. Let me know what happened. I don't care if it's been 5 years ago. Did you fix it or not? It's important to keep it in your logbook so we can have a reasonable train of thought to find out what happened to my shoulder. So guys, thanks for watching this great little video. I hope you're going to subscribe to my channel. And again, guys, I'm always open to helping you, but please try to keep as much information as you can for your shoulder, and I promise you I'll do my best. Thanks a lot, guys, for watching the Stretching Samurai, and I'm out. Ciao, guys.